Aloha. This is Betsy, webcareerpassingthrough.com, coming to you this afternoon from the beautiful Wainiha Valley on the north shore of the Garden Island of Kauai. And here with me today is our friend, author Heidi Siefkas, who's coming to us from the south side of the Garden Island of Kauai. Aloha, Heidi.
Aloha, Betsy, and mahalo for having me on Passing Through.
That, we could kind of start things out today by you telling us all the circumstances that led up to the events that you depict in your book.
Absolutely, and in order to share with you the story, we need to go back to 2009.
Okay.
At the time, what you alluded to, I was very ambitious, globe-trotting professional at an executive level, married, a homeowner, living a healthy lifestyle, very active. Then on one of my travels to Hudson River Valley in New York, a 1,000-pound tree limb out of nowhere struck me down, breaking my neck and leaving me unconscious for 5 days.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, so out of nowhere, out of the sky, a limb from a tree just falls randomly and hits you on top of the head.
I wish I could have given a better story. Up to this event, I was hiking in the Catskills the day before. I typically am very adventurous, you might say, but I was doing something as mundane as taking out the trash.
Oh my gosh.
A normal Sunday afternoon in fall, no tremendous winds. It was a healthy tree. So it was a freak accident.
Oh my gosh. So what happened after that?
Well, from that accident, my life as I knew it stopped. And roughly about a week in the hospital, neurosurgery, and then a multiple-month recovery.
And during that recovery time, you were immobilized, right?
I was in a full back, torso, and neck brace. No showering, no driving. I was limited to only walking as far as the physical therapy because they were very concerned about the actual vertebra, the C7, that it fused. And quite honestly, at the early stages of my recovery, I didn't understand the
impact,
intricate details.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me, and I don't know exactly what a cast like that is like, but I get a picture in my head of you're kind of like, the Tin Man's body walking around. When you do get to walk, would that be a fair description?
That would easily be a fair description. I usually refer to it as my cage, and
Right.
You'll see that in When All Balls Drop. And I also describe it feeling like you're in one of those horrible either rows next to the lavatories in the airplane that don't recline, that you're in that forced upright locked position all the time.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Then on top of that, your neck is also confined, so the easy things such as nodding your head in a conversation, that was not possible, as
No
well.
shaking your head?
Correct. Much impaired when you're unable to pivot your head, your torso in a direction to see things. So I referred to my my observation as a lawn sprinkler in the book, because it was as if I would take in the surroundings and then I would circle back. So say a multiple-month recovery far away from where I called home at the time, South Florida, with this confining cage was painful. It was emotionally so agonizing. And then on top of it,
this wasn't all that was going on, though, right?
Correct. So on top of a traumatic injury, breaking my neck, I then discovered that my husband had been living a double life. So double whammy.
Awesome.
And when I thought things couldn't get any worse, the third, I guess, whammy in this scenario was that I was called by my employer and they forced me to resign. So I lost everything in one fell swoop of that tree limb.
Oh my gosh, this is like a trifecta you won. Oh, you know, your personal relationship is just blown up. Your health, I mean, you were a healthy, active, sportsman-like person, and now your health is just compromised to the point of disability. And then your career, I'm sure, which you had a healthy identity with as well, as we all do when we take that path, all of a sudden, they're pulling the rug out from under you. I mean, how did you deal with this? Obviously, you were devastated.
Devastated, frustrated, living really close to insanity's ledge. I can't say that, I didn't react as most would initially, just distraught with everything.
Right.
And I had to fight to rebuild myself. And I had to do it piece by piece. I couldn't possibly deal with all those elements at once, and so I prioritized and took health as the only thing that I would be concerned with to begin with. Everything else was put to the back burner, and it took about 4 months of recovering physically in New York for me to be able to return to South Florida. And all that time I was living out of a suitcase, which I was used to traveling as a professional, but for 4 months at a time with a small rollerboard, that took it to another level. And
Right.
it was a different climate I was dealing with. I also needed different clothing to go over or under this cage. Uh,
Sure.
when I eventually returned to my home, then I continued my healing process, both physically and on other levels, and making really crucial decisions on my relationships, my career, and life going forward. So during this entire period of about 9 months, which is an incredibly special period in my life, I really decided what I wanted from life going forward and what my definition of having it all meant.
Well, it seems to me as though, you're in this dire situation where everything is really, really serious, and you're kind of acting like an emergency room doctor on your own life. You've got all of this stuff which is really kind of at crisis level, and so there you are, skillfully prioritizing and saying, okay, the first things first, let's get the health together, and then we're going to have to deal with all of this other BS that has come my way. You just marshaling all of that energy or that anger, all of that grief, and then reframing it to move forward, but also maybe feeling like it's the universe has given you this huge wake-up call. Things weren't really working for you, and maybe it's an opportunity to kind of push the reset button in a way. Maybe you could, elaborate a little bit on that.
Absolutely. The tree clobbering me was definitely a catalyst. It would be what people typically call as the wake-up call. One of the
Right.
characters in my memoir, she visited a psychic, and the psychic told her that it was a psychic slap. Whatever that tree limb was, it sparked the life change that has gotten me to where I am now. And it's not necessarily that event that defines this whole process, but it's now the perspective that I gained from it.
Right.
And it was a shift of perspective as well as a shift of priorities. Instead of having 10, a dozen, or more things on my plate, I decided I need to set my priorities on 3 major categories. The first was health, and I still to this day keep that as number 1. I'm grateful that I had a second chance at this life, and so I daily do something to maintain that health. Physical activity, trying to eat right, because without health you have nothing else. The other was relationships. Prior to my life change, I invested probably too much of my energy in one relationship, and what I came to find out is that I had a clan of supporters from all walks of life across the globe that all played intricate parts in my healing, because no one person has the answer to everything, And
Right.
some people's circumstances and knowledge helped me tremendously, whether it was professionally, whether it was about meditation, whether it was about their traumatic experience, their bad relationships, to get through these things. And although I say that I have a wide variety of relationships, my romantic relationship is much different than it was prior to the life change. It's mutual love, respect. We have similar humor, and I have the freedom to be the best me that I can be. So health, relationships, tier 1 and tier 2, tier 3 is on my professional, I guess, calling. And what I was doing with
Yeah.
before,
Tell us a
I
little bit about that, because you made a huge transformative shift in your career as well. I mean, obviously I didn't know you before this, but you're just so happy and joyful about your career, and I think that's a place where a lot of people would really like to be. So how did this situation kind of evolve into this happiness level?
I decided to follow my passions and make a career out of what I love doing. I was working in marketing and PR, and prior to that, as a teacher. I'd always been gifted at communications. So I said, let's do this. Let's redesign my life, and one of those components is career. I want to do what I love, which is write, inspire, travel, and learn.
The thing that struck me while I was reading your book, Heidi, When All Balls Drop, is that it reminded me so much of other really popular books in this genre, particularly Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, which I think is kind of set the standard for this sort of memoir. And another one that I read recently is Wild by Cheryl Strayed, where she actually walked the Pacific Crest Trail in a quest to find out who she really was after experiencing tremendous loss. And this particular genre about experiencing a loss like this and how it changes your life depending on how you can frame it and move forward, I think is such a powerful message to people who may be undergoing their own particular circumstance. And I just, I have to commend you, because it's a marvelous read, it's an easy read, and it's a heartfelt read.
I agree with you on the similarities of those two books and those two women's true stories of losing something in their life, whether it's a family relationship, love interest, or they just needed to get away from it all. And I think you can see that similarity in my story of losing everything. What is interesting, I think, is that both Elizabeth Gilbert and Cheryl Stray use travel as a way for them to move on and make decisions about their life. And that is actually where my sequel is going to pick up. Where I leave When All Balls Drop is after I'm physically and generally emotionally stable and healed, and I've decided where I want to go with life. But there's that yet independence, and am I totally healed yet, that is not revealed. And
Right.
that is what it will be about, and a lot of it is about traveling and getting out of your comfort zone and getting lost to find yourself.
With your unique Heidi Siefkas spin. Well, I would just encourage everybody to get on this bandwagon. I'm so excited that you're writing a sequel. But for now, for readers, Heidi's book, When All Balls Drop, is available on Amazon.com or at whenallballsdrop.com. And that'll wrap it up for this issue number 1 of the Passing Through podcast. Thank you so much, Heidi, for joining us. Mahalo and aloha.